Recently, I've been a little bit down. I've just had one of those weeks where different things started to stack up, one thing after another, until you feel exhausted. Amongst this, I realised that someone I was once quite close to is bringing me more negativity than positivity. And although distancing or separation is the correct option, it doesn't mean that it doesn't really hurt. Then a few nights ago, I had a phone call with a different friend of mine, one of our best friends actually. We spoke for about 90 minutes, some serious topics, some jokes, and at the end of the call we started discussing friendships in general. You see, how my friendships look now, what they are, what they mean, how I am as a person and where I'm at, these things are radically different to what they were 10 years ago. The only constant thing is change. And during the call, I realized some things. Some of my friendships have ended due to something specific I or they did. Some have finished due to circumstance, location, or just us heading in different directions. Some I'd love to be more substantial than they are, and some I wish simply remained. I've made new friends, fast friends, temporary friends. I speak to and see some often and some rarely. And I've also felt sad and friendless at times. This video is not a list of tips to gain friends. The aim of this video is to discuss various topics of friendships, to try and be honest and objective, whilst presenting some of my recent thoughts and research. I'd love to know your opinions too. They'll no doubt help me and help others. With that being said, let's discuss. I've had some tough times in my life. I simply wouldn't have got through those times without having good friends. Being there to talk to, a phone call away, to help me vent or shout or cry or just listen and act as a temporary therapist. But when your circle of friendship gets smaller, I guess so too does your support network. Although I think having, say, 3 really good friends is way more beneficial than 15 acquaintances, if you get what I mean. Still though, as the actual number of different people lowers, I think it's important to look to yourself more for support. Whether it's a healthy diet, exercise, or meditation. At the same time, there is just something uniquely cathartic about talking to a friend when you're in need of support. Perhaps you just need a second opinion on something from someone you trust. Maybe you just need someone to tell that secret to that you're supposed to keep. I don't know. This one's tricky and can leave you feeling lost. Some of my friends I used to talk to about more unique or serious things, I might not anymore. And when I think about that, it kind of puts me in a lonely place. I have a very close friend who I'll always speak to and be there for, but I think I'm at a stage of disconnecting with. I've asked him 3, 4, 5 times if he fancies finding the time to hang out in person. He has children, so most of the time he's taking care of them, working, or probably exhausted. And that's the wonders of parenthood, right? I've said, hey, can we just book in a day just to hang out? Can you take 3 hours off? The thing is, he's that type of friend that I could not see for 5 years and it feels like you saw each other yesterday. But how many times do you keep asking just to get a no back? Or to have your request ignored or forgotten about? I think there's an amount, but it differs per person. For me, I'm honestly starting to feel like not asking anymore. Not out of spite, but rather just to save myself from the feeling of rejection, because it's not a nice feeling. The other thing I want to say about initiate is, when you see a friend or friends slowly drifting away over time, and you notice they're not messaging you to do things anymore, even though perhaps you see them out and about, and they're seeing other people. If this is the case, just check one thing. If you want to hang out and catch up, are you initiating this or are you just expecting them to? If they don't, fair enough. But if you don't either, perhaps they feel the same thing you do about you. In this respect, it can be a little bit of a vicious circle. You know, neither person asking and therefore never connecting. I think initiate action on what you want to happen. And if it doesn't after that, then consider change. Human beings, we're social animals, right? We evolved to be as such. Staying alive is easier in a group. Connections, family and friendship are traits all very much part of our species' DNA. I suppose our purpose is still to survive and to replicate, fundamentally, but with our intelligence, I believe our purpose is so much more. To be curious, to explore, to experience art, emotions, music, to test theories, perform science, push boundaries, and cultivate our communities and connections. So not talking about everybody here, but for those that have less friendships over time, what does this mean for their purpose? Are they solely living for their immediate family or for their career? Is that fine for them? Is that all they need? What about those that are lucky enough to have a long-standing group of super close friends? Because I suppose they'd argue there's a need for that because that's what they know and that's what they have. Friends give us connection, trust, laughter, and relatability as an essential part of our purpose. But can this be gained in the same way from only family and work colleagues? Let me know your thoughts. I don't think great friendships require both people to have the same interests. It's nice, of course, and maybe it might be what brought you together in the first place. But I don't think it's essential. Instead, I think great friendships allow you the freedom to just be yourself, your true self. I can't emphasize how important this is. Now, I don't mean you go to the toilet in front of them, for example, or maybe you do. There's some things that we want to keep to ourselves, naturally. I just mean it's effortless for you to be yourself. You don't have to necessarily hide certain thoughts or certain feelings from them. Your time spent together is just genuine. This freedom can be drawn out by them or their personality, or it can be because of you and who you are, or just your equal presence creates a comfortable harmony. Me, for example, I experience freedom with my friends. I tell jokes, I laugh at certain things in a certain way. They know what I'm like, and I can tell them how I feel or I think. In my case, it's a combination of them allowing freedom, but also I am who I am. I'm quite open. If they like me, they like me. Because especially who I am now, I don't see the point in being anyone other than myself. I think this is, to me, what freedom in friendship really means. On one side, you probably have some great but not super close friends or colleagues. You might have great communication with them, and it's the right level and appropriate type of communication for that relationship. But then you have your closest friends on the other side, the ones where you can communicate the best, the most natural for you, and sometimes without any words at all. Like, I've got a friend who I could not say a single word to, and we just burst out laughing, and it's one of the nicest feelings ever. I think here, the communication it's kind of a sort of telepathy. There's just no judgment, and talking is effortless and endless. On the flip side though, sometimes certain friendships start out like this or evolve into this, but then inevitably get to a place where it's hard to understand each other. Usually, I think due to situations changing, or perhaps the ideals, goals, or even the humor perhaps changing for each person. And in these situations, providing no one was harmed, it's very important to remove the stigma of negativity from this. People change, friendships change, and like how many other things change in your life, simply by being part of life, we need to normalize the ending of friendships when it's their natural time to end. The issue with most friendships early on is that you or they tend to be less honest. I don't mean you're being purposely deceiving, or maybe you are. I mean, you showcase a version of yourself or a certain trait or interest to be a better fit in, to be accepted, to be validated. This happens the younger you are too. It's easier to make friends younger because of this, as I believe the younger you are, the more you're willing to try things out, experimenting, whereas as you get older, you know more about who you are, what you like, etc. So you're less willing to try new things, and you're definitely less willing to pretend to be someone you're not, or into something that you're not. But I think honesty is one of the main pillars of authentic friendship. If you're selfish and you're horrible to people, Of course, you're not going to hold on to many friendships, but I think at the same time, if you're too vanilla, you'll have a hard time too. You know, if you don't have your own opinions, if you don't share your personal thoughts or interests at the risk of not being liked by some, then you become a person who's, how can I put this? It's very much a background character to other people. Pleasant to have around or like be around in a bar or at a party, but not necessarily invited to solo or smaller group activities. Sharing your truth allows you to create and cultivate those deep and awesome connections and friendships with people who hopefully like the same things or at least share the same opinions as you, or just value your integrity and value your honesty. Have you ever had those friends which seem to be working against you or even jealous of your achievements? Some people recognize those type of friends, some don't, you know, and others, they never have them. I believe one of my friends who I don't really speak to anymore was this way. They just never seemed to be excited or genuine about my accomplishments or my celebrations. And it's strange because in many ways they're there for you, but in some they're kind of against you. Like, it's not even a situation that brings you anger or makes you upset. It's just a shame. I really believe if someone isn't bringing value and positivity to your life, whether it's family or friends, you should at least evaluate that relationship. And at the most, remove it. In college, I met a very good friend. We worked on projects together. We hung out. It was great. Long story short, as time went on, he met new friends. We hung out less and he eventually moved to a new country. Partly because they did, or at least I think, partly to pursue a career. At the time, suddenly he didn't respond to me anymore. I was effectively ghosted. And at the time, yes, I was upset, but more than anything, I was just confused. The truth is, I must have done something to him that I wasn't aware of, or I guess been someone who didn't resonate with him anymore. To this day, I still don't know the reason. But that's just the way it is, you know? It's out of my control. I can't change it, and I still don't understand it, but I can accept it and move on, and I have. The question is, would I start communication again if he got in touch with me after all this time? I'm not sure that I would. I guess the point is sometimes only one person changes in a relationship, whether it's a friend or a family or even a romantic partner. Regardless of which side you're on, even if there's full disclosure and it's amicable, it's not nice. Looking back, I now believe if you're on the rejected end of a friendship, it's difficult, but it's best to practice acceptance. Finally, I want to touch on a more black and white thought, and it's location and how that can affect your friendship. For example, if you see your best friend a few times a month, then they move to a different continent, the friendship doesn't have to end, of course, but it will change into something different than it currently is. I have friendships with people that live very close to me, but the amount we actually see each other in real life, you'd think we were in different countries. But this is normal and natural, and life and responsibilities dictate this. But what about the times you feel yourself trying to make something work, and it's tough because you want or even need that physical connection, to be in the same room as someone, you know? Sometimes a phone call, it's just not enough. And then what happens when you get this feeling more and more often? I don't really know what to suggest here, to be honest. I guess if you're feeling this way, it means the difference in location is, well, it's causing the finish line to come into view. At this point, it's probably best to either talk about this with the person or be at peace with the change and focus on the other relationships you have in closer proximity that can help you fill that gap. Okay, so that's all my thoughts on this at the moment. Thank you so much for watching to the end. As I said at the beginning, I would really love to know your thoughts and advice on this topic. So let's discuss down in the comments. If this video was valuable to you, maybe you'll like some of my other ones, consider subscribing. I'm a small channel, it would really help. Thank you again for taking the time to watch. Have a good day or night, wherever you are. Ciao for now.